It would be also surveillance equipment.
The number's way off. You could do 1,000 miles for $12 billion. You're asking for $46 billion. So I'm one who's not impressed and would have to see more detail as to where the rest of the money goes. We can't just throw $30 billion out there and say things cost a lot.
I agree. We'll get you the specifics on that.
With regard to the drones and all the preparatory work that DHS does and the government does for the NFL and for FIFA, does the NFL pay DHS for the work you do?
Boy, not to my knowledge. I will.
Well, I mean, here's my point. The NFL makes billions of dollars.
Welcome back, patriots, to American Mindset, where we fight for truth, liberty, and the American way of life. Today, we're diving into a heated Senate hearing where Senator Rand Paul confronted DHS Secretary Kristi Noem over some absolutely outrageous spending and government overreach. If you haven't seen it, stick around, because what I'm about to share will make your blood boil and remind you why we must hold government accountable. Let's get into it.
Secretary knows, everybody knows, that's the end. We're going to try to move on to the next person to get you out of here. We talked a little bit about the wall earlier. The administration has asked for $46.5 billion for the wall. The border on the Mexican border is about 1,950 miles. We've fenced or walled about 700 of it. That leaves about 1,200 miles. There's 200 or 300 miles of it that probably never going to have a fence on. It's mountainous or just impossible to fence or wall. So I would say realistically, you got under 1,000. But let's just say there's 1,000. You really want to wall on 1,000. CBP says it's 6.5 million per mile. Your response today was 12 million per mile. That means $12 billion for 1,000 miles. We're off here by a factor of 3 or 4 with 46 billion. Where's the rest of the 46 billion? The administration says they want 46 billion for a wall. You could pave all of it and still have, 34 billion left over. What's the 34 billion going for?
Yeah, Senator, thank you for the question. We do have 702 miles of wall today. 598 of that are steel. The rest of that is temporary, that's in place. Since the president's been in office, over 70 miles has been erected. We have 11 contracts that have gone out and allocated. We also have 5 more that are pending. Based on the dollars that have been requested, it's not just the infrastructure that would be built, that would be the actual wall construction. It would be also surveillance equipment.
The number's way off. You could do 1,000 miles for $12 billion. You're asking for $46 billion. So I'm one who's not impressed and would have to see more detail as to where the rest of the money goes. We can't just throw $30 billion out there and say things cost a lot.
I agree. We'll get you the specifics on that.
With regard to the drones and all the preparatory work that DHS does and the government does for the NFL and for FIFA, does the NFL pay DHS for the work you do?
Boy, not to my knowledge. I will.
Well, I mean, here's my point. The NFL makes billions of dollars. We're $2 trillion in the hole. I don't care if government shares their technology and government helps out the World Cup. They ought to pay.
Yeah,
people are paying hundreds of dollars for tickets. I mean, thousands of dollars for the NFL, for Super Bowl and things. They're also paying for FIFA. And so these people ought to pay. And so I'm one holding up these authorizations, and I'll let them go forward. But I want people to pay. I mean, it's ridiculous that the average taxpayer who could never afford to go to an NFL Super Bowl has got to pay for their security. Should the government help? If we have technology they don't, perhaps. But they ought to pay. So NFL, FIFA, I think they all ought to pay. And we'll be insisting on trying to put language in that. If you're a for-profit entity and the government's helping you, you ought to pay for it. With regard to TSA Quiet Skies and Tulsi Gabbard situation, I suspect there are going to be other people that were caught up in this thing as well. I'm horrified by the idea that we took a former congresswoman and we're surveilling her and riding on jets with her. There was another story of an air marshal whose wife, might have been at January 6th or something, and now we're, have air marshals following another air marshal or his wife. So I want to hear the whole story of what happened. I want to hear that people have been let go, that they're no longer doing this. If there were abuses of Tulsi Gabbard's liberties, I want to hear from that. But I want repercussions to come from this. And I think you've said something's coming. Please let us know, and let us know how the program the destruction of civil liberties can be minimized. I frankly probably have trouble with the whole program, but let's see if there's some way. But we need significant reform. If it needs legislation, please come to us with that. Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here.
All right, so let's start with the big question here. Where's the rest of the $46 billion? Senator Rand Paul did what so few politicians have guts to do. He asked the tough questions. The Biden administration requested $46.5 billion for the border wall, but according to estimates, it would only take $12 billion to build 1,000 miles of wall. So where's the other $34 billion going? That's our money, folks. Money that could be going to hardworking Americans or fixing our crumbling infrastructure. Instead, it's vanishing into some bureaucratic black hole. Secretary Noem admitted that the funding isn't just for wall construction, but she couldn't provide a detailed breakdown of where the money is actually going. Let me tell you something. If a private business tried to pull this kind of stunt, they'd be shut down for fraud. Plain and simple. But when the government does it, they expect us to just look the other way. Not on my watch. Now, let's talk about what we've actually gotten for the money already spent. Secretary Noem said there are currently 702 miles of wall, with 598 miles being steel barriers and the rest temporary fencing. She also mentioned that over 70 miles of wall have been built since Biden took office, with 11 contracts allocated and 5 more pending. But here's the thing. If we already have 702 miles of wall, and the administration is asking for $46 billion more, why is there such a huge gap between what's needed and what's being requested? Either someone is lying to us, or the government is wasting your money on things they don't want to tell us about. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of the lies and waste. Senator Paul also pointed out something that really stuck with me. He said you could pave the entire border and still have $34 billion left over. Think about that. That's your hard-earned tax dollars being flushed down the drain. And when Paul pressed for answers, all he got was vague excuses about infrastructure and additional costs. Well, I've got news for you, Washington. The American people deserve specifics. We're done writing blank checks for your incompetence. Now, this part really fired me up. Senator Paul brought up the fact that the government provides free security for events like the Super Bowl and the World Cup. That's right, profitable organizations like the NFL and FIFA, which make billions of dollars, are getting their security paid for by you. Let me ask you this. When was the last time the NFL paid your bills? When was the last time FIFA sent you a check? Paul is absolutely right. These organizations should be paying for their own security. The average American family, who could never afford a ticket to the Super Bowl, is being forced to subsidize these billion-dollar corporations. It's disgusting, and it's un-American. If you're raking in billions in profits, you can afford to foot your own security bill. Period. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about the TSA Quiet Skies program. Senator Paul called out the government for surveilling former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard and others. Let me repeat that. Our government was spying on a former member of Congress. This is a blatant violation of civil liberties, and it should terrify every single one of us. Paul also brought up cases where air marshals were following other air marshals, or even their family members. What kind of dystopian nightmare are we living in where the government thinks it can spy on anyone, anytime, without consequences? This isn't China, folks. This is the United States of America. We have rights, and we're not going to sit quietly while the government tramples them. Senator Paul didn't just call out the problems. He demanded action. He wants to see accountability, personnel changes, and significant reforms to stop these abuses. And he's absolutely right. We need leaders who will stand up to government overreach, not roll over and let happen. If legislation is needed to protect our liberties, then let's get it done. But more importantly, we need to elect leaders who will actually fight for we the people. My fellow patriots, this Senate hearing is just another example of why we need to hold our government accountable. Whether it's wasting billions of dollars on a border wall budget that doesn't add up, subsidizing billion-dollar corporations like the NFL and FIFA, or abusing civil liberties through programs like Quiet Skies, it's clear that the system is broken. But here's the good news. We have the power to fix it. By staying informed, speaking out, and voting for leaders who put America first, we can take our country back. As Senator Paul said, we need specifics, we need accountability, and we need real change. And here at American Mindset, we're going to keep fighting for that change every single day. Thank you for tuning in to American Mindset, where we never back down from the fight for truth and liberty. If you're as fired up as I am, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your fellow patriots. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, God bless you, and God bless America.